Hurricane Zeta is on a fast approach to southeastern Louisiana. Good morning, I'm Mike Nasa with this 11 a.m. update on our Hurricane Zeta. You can see the visible satellite imagery of the United States. Clearly, Tropical Storm Zeta yesterday re-intensified into a hurricane. You can see the eye there south of Louisiana. And look at this, the cold front, this winter storm here in the southern U.S. has picked it up, and we will soon see an acceleration in the motion on off towards the north, then the north-northeast, and then eventually it'll jettison on off the east coast and we won't have to deal with it anymore, but not before it gives southeastern Louisiana and the Mississippi coastline quite a lashing over the next 12 to 24 hours. Here's the latest on Hurricane Zeta as of 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The eye of the hurricane was at 26.9 north, 91.7 west, winds of 90. So it's an upper edge Category 1, could still become a Category 2. They were forecasting that at 5 a.m. They've kind of backed off that a bit. Nevertheless, it is expected to be a hurricane at landfall. Yesterday we were debating whether or not it might make hurricane or stay a tropical storm. Now it almost seems certain it will make landfall as another hurricane in Louisiana. Moving north at 18, very quickly now. It's clearly been picked up to the north, and then it's going to accelerate northeast right over southeastern Louisiana and the Mississippi coastline. We do have a hurricane warning from Morgan City, Louisiana, to the Mississippi-Alabama border, including Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and downtown New Orleans. We also have a tropical storm warning from the Mississippi-Alabama border to the Walton Bay County line there on the Florida Panhandle. You guys might get slammed too, especially with an onshore flow on the right and southern side of the hurricane. I should note we have storm surge warnings in effect all the way over to Navarre, Florida, and this entire area here very susceptible. Lake Borgne, Lake Pontchartrain, Pensacola Bay, Mobile Bay. So if you're in a low-lying area, make sure your boat is good and get out of Dodge. You don't want to be there when we have a water rise. Some good news is they've dropped the tropical storm watch from west of Morgan City to Intracoastal City. That's been discontinued because this system is much tighter than most storms we see approaching with cold fronts this time of year. You can see that even better on the visible. Watch right here where I just drew this line. Watch that pulse. Do you see that pulse? That's the cold air. Boom. You see that right there? Boom. That's crazy. I'll show you in a second the contrast in temperatures between this tropical 90-mile-per-hour hurricane right here and this wintry weather here over Texas and the southern plains that we've been dealing with. Nevertheless, you can see the eye of the hurricane here, expected to make that turn again, eventually northeast, somewhere in that direction. So if you live in Grand Isle, Houma, Thibodaux, you guys got to be battening down the hatches because this hurricane's headed for Cajun country like many other storms this year. The storm surge is the biggest threat right now, the water rise, to say nothing of the wind. I'll talk about the wind in a second. But you can see water rises here along the Mississippi coastline in particular, 6 to 9 feet. If it brings 9 feet of surge with crashing waves on top of that, that's a lot of problems there right along the coastline. So if you're in areas of Biloxi, Waveland, Gulfport, Pass Christian, you guys want to be getting ready for that surge. Also, Lake Pontchartrain, 3 to 5 feet. I heard there was some shrimping going on there last night because some huge shrimp were washing up along the lakeshore with the winds increasing and the surf increasing, stirring up the waters as the hurricane gets closer. Pensacola Bay, 2 to 4 feet. And then St. Andrew Bay, 1 to 3, all the way over to Yankeetown and the Big Bend. Anywhere where you're going to have that residual drag in of the winds as the hurricane moves on off to the northeast, you will have onshore water rises. In fact, this is the inundation layer map. You can see where these little areas are here in the stripes, the white stripes. Those are levee-protected areas. So hopefully they won't have as big a problem. But you can see down here in the more marshy areas here, Houma and Grand Isle and this whole area, very, very susceptible to Golden Meadow and these little bays and estuaries in here, very susceptible to high water rises. Port Sulphur, West Bay, Venice, anywhere here in Plaquemines Parish, will likely be underwater. Even when we get a tropical storm, they flood. So a potent hurricane like Zeta is likely to bring that. But I'm very concerned here along the Mississippi coastline, areas right here to Bay St. Louis, Pasch Christian, Long Beach, Gulfport. Anybody who's done hurricane stuff for a while knows these towns. They're very, very susceptible to high storm surges. So again, we could see 6 feet or more of water rises all the way over to the Alabama coastline. I did want to note the wind with this hurricane. Right now we're dealing with a high-end Category 1, could become a Category 2 right in this area here. We were with a tropical storm last night, so we have jumped up a little bit in the wind. So Zeta has upped the hurricane ante, if you will, as far as winds. Of course, Hurricane Delta was more up here. Hurricane Laura was up in this area. So Zeta hopefully won't be as bad as those storms, but still a hurricane at the end of October, very nasty. The flood threat from rainfall is going to be moving quickly, thankfully. So most of the rainfall, this isn't all in relation to the hurricane. We have the wet weather here in the Midwest regardless of Zeta. You can see by Friday it should be out, and by Saturday we should be pretty clear over most of the United States, at least from the Great Plains on eastward. You can see the radar imagery right now. We still don't have a radar out of this area of western Louisiana, Lake Charles radar, ever since Hurricane Laura. That radar has been out. So we already had a hurricane take out our radar. It's like a war out there when it comes to these hurricanes this year. Our radar was taken out, so we have less data. But you can see out of New Orleans, a lot of gusty winds and heavy rain right offshore there. The eye of the hurricane is still coiled up far enough south we don't see it. But some nasty weather moving here through areas of Mississippi. You can see we did have some tornado warnings for the whole country. It was Mobile and New Orleans. So we do have the threat of severe weather, so you guys want to be on alert there. One of the reasons for the severe weather, even unrelated to the hurricane, is this contrast in hot and cold air. We have 74 degrees in New Orleans this morning, but look it up, Jackson is 70, Tupelo's 64, Memphis 54. Look at that. So the difference between, say, Texarkana at 52 degrees and Lake Charles at 71, it gets cold very, very quickly. And you can see that's going to be contrasting with the tropical weather moving on up. Wind gusts you can see throughout the day are going to get worse and worse until the evening, and we will eventually see high winds there over areas of New Orleans. Tonight's low 55, so it's going to be a chilly hurricane, something we don't see too often. The bottom line, key messages with Hurricane Zeta. Number one, a life-threatening storm surge is expected tonight along portions of the North Gulf Coast later today into tonight, with the highest inundation from Louisiana to Alabama, Dauphin Island areas in there, Port Fourchon. If I said that correctly, I'm sorry, my Cajun French is a little bit off, my Creole. I'm getting used to it this year with all these hurricanes in Louisiana, though. Residents in the storm surge warning area should follow any advice given by local officials. Overtopping of the federal, local, non-federal levee system is possible within southeastern Louisiana. That seems to be the case whenever we get a powerful storm. Number two, hurricane conditions are expected this afternoon and evening in that hurricane warning area from southeast Louisiana to Mississippi. And again, tropical storm conditions in the warning area along Alabama and the Florida Panhandle as well. Strong damaging wind gusts that could cause tree damage, power outages well inland over Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Virginia tonight and Thursday. Is going to move very quickly, so we're going to get rid of it. But those wind gusts could be severe across the southern Appalachians on Thursday. And finally, through Thursday, heavy rainfall is expected from the central U.S. Gulf Coast into the mid-Mississippi Valley, Ohio Valley, southern Appalachians, and mid-Atlantic states in advance of Zeta that could cause flash urban, small stream, and minor river flooding. Again, a very potent late-season hurricane Zeta. If and when it makes landfall as a hurricane, this would be the 6th hurricane to hit the United States this year. We had Hannah in July, Isaias and Laura in August. We had Hurricane Sally in September. We had Hurricane Delta a couple of weeks ago. And now here comes Hurricane Zeta. And remember, too, the storms at one point were forecast to be a hurricane in the U.S. like Beta and Cristobal and Marco. We could have had 9 hurricanes hit the U.S., so if anything, we've been kind of lucky. A very, very active hurricane season 2020. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on Hurricane Zeta. I will talk to you guys next time.